The recent spectacle of Kamala Harris delivering a speech at a real estate conference in Australia has sparked a wave of criticism, most notably from Megyn Kelly, who didn't hold back in her scathing commentary. Harris's appearance at the event was met with disbelief and ridicule, as many questioned why someone with no discernible background in real estate was invited to speak to industry professionals. Kelly's reaction, echoed by many observers, painted a vivid picture of Harris's speech as a masterclass in verbosity without substance, a performance so devoid of meaningful content that it left audiences baffled and frustrated. The broader conversation around this event reveals deeper issues about Harris's public persona, her political viability, and the Democratic Party's persistent reliance on identity politics over merit. This analysis explores the layers of criticism surrounding Harris's speech, her career trajectory, and the implications for her political future, while also delving into the broader dynamics at play within the Democratic Party. The decision to invite Kamala Harris to a real estate conference in Australia raised immediate red flags. Real estate is a field that demands practical expertise, sharp sales skills, and a deep understanding of market dynamics. Harris, whose professional background is rooted in law and politics, has no apparent connection to the industry. Critics, including Kelly, pointed out the absurdity of expecting her to offer valuable insights to real estate professionals. What could she possibly contribute to a discussion about connecting buyers with suitable homes or navigating property markets? The choice seemed less about expertise and more about leveraging her name recognition, however tarnished it may be. Kelly's commentary cut to the core of this mismatch, questioning whether the organizers were swayed by Harris's political profile rather than her qualifications. The implication was clear. Harris was there to collect a paycheck, not to impart wisdom. The speech itself, as described by Kelly and others, was a quintessential Kamala Harris performance, long-winded, meandering, and packed with what has become known as her signature word salad. Listeners were forced to wade through a deluge of vague platitudes to find any semblance of a point, only to discover that even those rare moments of clarity were hollow. Kelly described the experience as exhausting, noting that Harris's speeches require listeners to sift through 500 words to get to the four that actually do have meaning, only to realize that those words are entirely empty. This critique resonates with a broader sentiment about Harris's public speaking style, which often feels like an exercise in endurance rather than enlightenment. Her delivery, marked by a serious demeanor and a tone that promises profound insights, consistently fails to deliver substance, leaving audiences confused and disengaged. One particularly egregious example from the speech was Harris's attempt to frame real estate agents as civic leaders for their role in connecting buyers with homes. This statement, which Kelly mocked mercilessly, exemplifies Harris's tendency to inflate mundane roles with grandiose rhetoric. The idea that real estate agents, whose primary function is to facilitate property transactions, should be seen as civic leaders on par with community activists or public officials is laughable to many. It's the kind of empty platitude that Harris has become known for, a soundbite designed to sound inspiring but crumbling under scrutiny. Kelly's critique was unrelenting, pointing out that Harris's speech seemed like a recycled template, with the word real estate lazily inserted to make it relevant to the audience. This lack of authenticity and specificity underscores a broader issue: Harris's inability to connect with audiences in a meaningful way. The Australia speech is just one chapter in a long history of Harris's public speaking missteps. Her performances are often characterized by a performative gravitas that promises depth but delivers confusion. Critics have likened her speeches to a TED Talk delivered by a magic 8-ball, a comparison that captures the randomness and lack of coherence in her rhetoric. Even when she manages to string together a coherent sentence, it's often buried under layers of buzzwords and circular reasoning. This has become a defining feature of her public persona, one that has dogged her throughout her political career. From her time as a presidential candidate in 2020, where she failed to gain traction and dropped out before the primaries, to her tenure as vice president, Harris has struggled to project the clarity and conviction needed to inspire confidence. The criticism of Harris's speech in Australia goes beyond her delivery. It raises questions about why she was invited in the first place. Kelly suggested that Harris's appearance was less about demand for her insights and more about her willingness to travel to a place where her reputation was less known. In the United States, Harris's speaking engagements are rare, as her track record of gaffes and lackluster performances has made her a risky choice for event organizers. The Australia gig, Kelly argued, was a chance for Harris to secure a paycheck in a market where her political baggage was less likely to precede her. This perspective paints a damning picture of Harris's current standing, a politician so unpopular at home that she must seek opportunities abroad to maintain relevance. Harris's lack of appeal isn't just a matter of poor public speaking, it's tied to a broader perception of inauthenticity. One of the most persistent criticisms of Harris is her chameleon-like tendency to adapt her persona to suit her audience. Whether it's adopting a Southern accent in the South, urban slang in certain communities, or a folksy tone elsewhere, Harris's attempts to relate often come across as calculated and insincere. Kelly's commentary highlighted this, noting that Harris morphs into whatever she thinks will make her relatable in the moment. This performative approach might be intended to build rapport, but it often has the opposite effect, alienating audiences who crave authenticity over artifice. Voters and observers alike have grown weary of Harris's shape-shifting, which feels less like adaptability and more like a lack of a core identity. This perception of inauthenticity has been a significant hurdle in Harris's political career. Her 2020 presidential campaign was a case study in failure, as she struggled to sell herself as a compelling candidate. Despite entering the race with high expectations, Harris's campaign fizzled out early, unable to resonate with voters. Her inability to articulate a clear vision or connect with audiences on a personal level was a recurring issue. Even as vice president, Harris has failed to shake this image. Her approval ratings have consistently lagged, and her public appearances often generate more memes than momentum. The Australia speech, with its lack of substance and questionable relevance, only reinforces this narrative. Harris is a politician who tries too hard to be everything to everyone, and in doing so, ends up being nothing to anyone. The Democratic Party's role in Harris's rise and persistence on the national stage is another critical piece of this puzzle. Critics, including Kelly and commentators like Bill Maher, have argued that Harris's prominence is less about her qualifications and more about the party's obsession with identity politics. As a woman of color, Harris checks certain demographic boxes, which the Democratic National Committee (DNC) has prioritized in recent years. This focus on optics over substance has been a recurring critique of the party, with many arguing that it has led to the elevation of candidates who lack broad appeal or proven leadership. Maher warned as early as 2020 that Harris was a bad politician whose unpopularity would be a liability, yet the DNC continued to push her forward, culminating in her selection as vice president. The consequences of this approach were evident in the 2024 election, where the Democratic Party suffered a crushing defeat. Harris's role as a key figure in the campaign was seen by many as a miscalculation, with her lack of popularity and inability to connect with voters contributing to the loss. The party's insistence on prioritizing identity over electability has alienated Middle America, which values results over symbolism. As Kelly and others have pointed out, Harris's selection was less about her ability to lead and more about satisfying a narrow set of ideological priorities. This approach has not only failed to deliver electoral success, but has also fueled resentment among voters who feel that competence is being sidelined in favor of tokenism. The broader implications of Harris's struggles extend beyond her individual career. They highlight a deeper crisis within the Democratic Party, which has become increasingly boxed in by identity politics. The party's focus on appeasing specific demographic groups has led to a disconnect with the broader electorate, which prioritizes issues like economic growth, national security, and education. By elevating candidates like Harris, who lack a clear track record of leadership or widespread appeal, the party risks further alienating voters and handing elections to their opponents. The critique, echoed by voices like Maher and Kelly, is that the Democrats must break free from this performative approach and focus on candidates who can unite and inspire. For Harris herself, the path forward is unclear. Her repeated missteps, from the Australia speech to her broader political career, suggest that she may not be suited for the national stage. Critics argue that she would be better served returning to her legal roots, where her expertise in contract law could be put to better use. Public speaking and political leadership require clarity, authenticity, and a genuine connection with audiences, qualities that Harris has consistently struggled to demonstrate. A graceful exit from the political spotlight, perhaps to focus on a less public but more impactful role, could be the best way to salvage her reputation and spare audiences from further word salads. In the end, the Australia speech was more than just a single misstep. It was a microcosm of Harris's broader challenges as a public figure. Her inability to deliver coherent, meaningful remarks, coupled with her questionable relevance to the audience, underscored the disconnect that has defined her career. The Democratic Party's role in elevating her, despite clear warning signs, speaks to a deeper flaw in their approach to candidate selection. As the party looks ahead to 2028, it must confront the reality that performative politics and identity-driven choices are no longer enough to win elections. Voters want leaders who can deliver results, not just check boxes. For Kamala Harris, the Australia debacle may be a sign that it's time to step back and reassess her path before the electorate does it for her.